Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with the daily technical update. It is Thursday the 12th of September. There are some few improvements to the videos. There are now chapters, so you can jump right to the chapter you want to have a look at, so you don't have to watch everything, and you will see it in the comments below. You can check out that and you can click on the timestamp, and then you can jump to, for example, commodities or to Forex dollar yen and so on, or you can just start with the equities, which we're going to start with here, and we're going to start with Nvidia as stock of the day, because a very strong move yesterday, 8% up in normal trading yesterday, just below the 180 kind of pivot point. You can see here that seems to be a pivot point for bullish and bearish mode. If we do close above 118 and RSI also closes above 60 threshold, well, then we could see a push higher towards 130 strong resistance level. And moving on to just have a quick look at the Japanese market, that actually was quite interesting overnight for us here in Europe at least. And let's look at the JP 225 CFD, 35,464. Tried to close below or dip below a couple of times, but has bounced, so that is the key support here. Interesting though, we are in a negative sentiment, and of course with the sell-off there. But if we move back above 30,324, we could push back in a positive territory, and the RSI needs to go back above 60 threshold. If we're looking at the US market, where we saw S&P 500 closed higher yesterday, very strong move after being sold off early in the session. As you can see, this shadow or wick down here just to the bottom from the other day, or from the lows there, but we do close well above 5,501. Now we just need the RSI back above 60 threshold. It is still in a positive sentiment. It never closed below 40 threshold, but if it does close back above 60 threshold, well, then there's potential back to all-time highs. Looking at the US500 CFD very quickly, we can see that it bounced from the levels just above 100 moving average and around the support here at 5,400 and the 50% of this uptrend. So a correction of 50%, still bullish or positive sentiment, could push higher towards previous peaks, but we still have to remember we do have some strong resistance ahead. Looking at the Nasdaq 100 index, that also of course did well with the semiconductors last night bouncing. We have Nasdaq back above 19,000, still in negative sentiment, so it really needs to close back above 60 threshold for a push higher, and that could materialize if we get back above 19,523. This area here that seems to be a little bit of resistance area, but we are back above the cloud, but that was also fairly easy to do. We are back above 100 moving average, but we have the 55 here, and we also have to remember that we have the bearish engulfing top and reversal that needs to be cancelled, so it needs to close above that one. And just a quick look at the US NAS 100 CFD, that also of course bounced strongly, just off the 61.8 retracement here at 18,262, and a very strong bounce. So could it resume uptrend? Yes, if we get RSI back above 60 threshold, then we'll confirm that. European stocks also were lifted by the positive market or bullish market in US. We have Euro stocks back above 5,812, Euro stocks 50 here, but key strong resistance up at 4,907. That can be a bit of a struggle to get back above that level. I will actually say it really needs to close this gap, and then when we're talking about gaps, we talk about the actual gap, the closing price. So that's actually 49.12 and a half, so 49.13. That would be a bit of a struggle for Euro Stoxx 50. And then we have the upper the top reversal pattern in form of bearish engulfing here. That can also be a bit of a struggle. It really needs to take that out. So let's see here the next couple of days going into next week what will happen, or will it turn around and resume bearish trend. DAX index, of course, also a strong move yesterday, and opening higher this morning. strong resistance at 18,748, but here we have the RSI being in a positive sentiment already, never closed below 40, that didn't even touch it, and it bounced from this strong support here, but we have strong resistance up there. I think we could move up to try to close this gap at least, and if it does, then we will challenge this bearish engulfing top and reversal pattern. So that will be interesting here the next few weeks, what will happen in that field. The Amsterdam index also pushing higher, 901 just below it, as we can see here. Still negative sentiment and really strong overhead resistance just around the 907. That will be a bit of a struggle. We have the 100 moving average and the 55 moving average giving a kind of a pressure to the downside, so it will be a little bit of a struggle, but if it can close above that, well, then we can see it push higher. Otherwise, if it is being rejected, it will slide back lower towards 890, 880. CAC 40 just above 74.64 resistance support. Is also kind of a pivot, it seems. You can see here it was really strong support, then was taken out, and then it got back above, then it was back. So that is the key here. Will it close back below, or will it close above? So that will be interesting to follow here the next couple of days. But you have to say CAC 40 is also it is struggling. You can see really struggling and lacking index. So it is being depressed. We are below the 55 moving average. I think we could easily slide lower, but key will be, can it actually move above also 7,500. Finally, the Swiss market. The Swiss market, 12,000. If it can close above that, then I think that level, I think we can see it push up to around 12,200. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, well, then expect the downtrend to resume towards 11,770. Moving on to FX and starting with euro dollar. Currently below 110.25, trying to get back above there. We are in a negative or bearish trend at the moment, or corrective phase. RSI still in a positive sentiment, needs to close below 40, but there is a potential down for a correction down to 109.50, 109.40 in this range here, where we have also the 55 moving average coming up and giving some support in that area. It is in the cards. However, euro dollar is in a bullish trend also in medium term, so I still regard this as a corrective phase. If it moves back above 110.55, then it could see a push towards 111.50 and trying to challenge this spike up there. So that would be key here the next 24 hours, I believe. Euro sterling has is still holding back above the 84 key level. That is support. Keep an eye on that. For now, it's just trading sideways. Can't really get back above the 55 moving average to the 38.2 retracement here at 84.85. So it could challenge again for the 84 level. And cable, excuse me, and cable that it's dancing around the 38.2 retracement, still holding on above it at 130.35. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, expect a move down to 129, strong support, and 61.8 retracement. Also here, similar to euro dollar, we are medium term in a bullish trend, and we will remain in a bullish trend as long as we stay above 129. Dollar yen has bounced strongly overnight, and you can see where it's bouncing from 140.80, just above 140.25, and it actually comes all the way back from the lows here around New Year. So really key, interesting levels, and it actually now formed a hammer formation. That is a bottom and reversal pattern, and we can also see massive divergence on the RSI. We can see the RSI values were actually rising, indicating that the last leg down here was a kind of exhaustive move, and now we could see a correction higher, and we could probably see it, and if we add a Fibonacci to just the last leg down, we could see a bounce to possibly around the 144.73, which is the 61.8, maybe all the way up to 145.82. But it needs to get back, dollar yen needs to get back above 147.21 for a bullish trend to resume. We have Euro Yen, more or less the same picture really. And if we look at also here, it actually formed a hammer just above 155, trying to move back above 157 and a half. And I think it is a little bit of a resistance level, but I think we could see a push up towards 160, and that will be a key resistance for Euro Yen. If it takes out the hammer, and that also counts for dollar yen, if it takes out the hammer to the downside, well, then expect a push lower, in this case here to 153. We have Aussie Yen. Excuse me. We have Aussie Yen also bouncing. You can see here bouncing from the 61.8 retracement and the 93.65 support, and also forming a hammer-like pattern. And we could see a bounce towards at least 97.25 in that region there. Also massive divergence on the RSI. That is really a key for indicating that we are in an exhausted mode for the sell-off. Sterling Yen, interestingly, no divergence. As you can see, there's no lower lows here on Sterling Yen, but the RSI is higher, so there's no divergence really, but still it bounces just above the support here around 183.25. Could bounce a little bit, but it has some upside resistance in this area at 182.20, 189.50. Moving on to Aussie dollar, dipped just below to the 200 moving average, below the 66.40 and bounced back. So that is a key pivot level here. If it does close below, then expect further downside, and especially if it takes out the spike down there to 66.22 yesterday, then we could see a move down to 65, 60, 70 level. But for now, we are still back above. If it moves back above 67, then I think we'll see uptrend resuming. Still positive sentiment on the RSI, so that is key levels to look out for. Dollar Canada. Dollar Canada, we have dancing around this 135 pivot point. Almost got up to the 38.2 retracement. Could easily resume downtrend. We have moving averages 55 and 100 down there, pushing down. We have the 200 flat, so but it is dragging on it, and we're still in negative sentiment. So we could see dollar Canada resuming downtrend. But if it takes out the peak from yesterday at 136.25, then we could see it trying to push towards 137, but it will be a little bit of a struggle. And then by request from one of my subscribers, which I'm happy to do for you guys, Sterling Canada. Sterling Canada, it's the very strong bounce we saw here in August, and now it's falling a little bit. Didn't make a new high here in September. If it takes out 176.80, we could see a correction lower below 176. It's going to be interesting. The thing with Sterling Canada is we have a lot of spikes here, and that's due to the spread on it. So it's not the most liquid of them all, but it seems like it's going to have a go at 176.80. Keep an eye on that one. However, we do have the 55 moving average giving some support. You can see how many times they actually gave some support. It dipped below and then it came back up. So if it takes out the peak here from earlier this month at 178.45, then uptrend is to resume. EURUSD. EURUSD bounced from a 93. We talked about the possibility of that yesterday. Resistance at 94.50 that could be tested, and maybe even if it breaks above. Oops, sorry about that. If it breaks above that, well, then it could slowly start building an uptrend towards and above a 95. Dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss also bouncing somewhat, testing the 85.40 key resistance. Is it a double bottom that it's actually forming? If it does close above, well, then we could see a push higher to the 86 at least, and 86.30, maybe even 86 a little bit more. Finally, on the dollar index, excuse me, dollar index also kind of a double bottom pattern. If it does break above, well, then we could see first of all a move to 102.25, but also 102.70 level. However, if it's being rejected, well, then it could be caught range bound in this area here between 100.5 and 180 level. Moving on to commodities and gold, it is still the same story that we talked about for the past week or so, caught in this range here between 25.32 and 24.70. We need a breakout of that for any potential move. I still favor the upside, but again, it's really hard. I want confirmation. I want RSI back above 60 and preferably also close above this falling trend line there. So that I need confirmation for that to materialize, and that's what you should do when you are doing your analysis. You need confirmation. You want confirmation. Silver spot 29.18, 29.20, a close above that, and if we get it back above the cloud, then we could get back into bullish trend, and then the next hurdle will be a 30 spot 20, a break above that, a close above that, then we are also confirming that, and the confirmation will be if RSI closes back above 60 threshold. But for now, we are still caught in this range here. Moving on to copper, that seems to be moving this morning, so let's see where it can take it. When it can take the copper future, you can see it's testing the 55 moving average that has been kind. You can see a resistance, and it really needs to push higher, and it needs to take out the 439.85 peak here. If it does that, well, then we could see a push towards 450, but we have the 100 moving average kind of putting a lid on there. So still a bit of a struggle, but it will confirm a bullish trend. Crude oil that has really been hammered lately is bouncing a little bit here the past 24 hours or so, following through today. But as you can see here on the weekly chart, after breaking this lower rising trend line and taking out supports, we are in a bearish trend, and there is potential lower for crude oil. Here is WTI. There's potential down to the 64 level, but for now we are still holding on above 67.70, at least in terms of closing prices. So let's see where we end the week, and then we maybe could see a little bit of a bounce towards the 71.60 level, but we are in a downtrend and could push lower on the medium term in coming weeks and months. Brent crude oil, more or less the same picture, really also formed a triangle-like pattern on the weekly. As you can see here, we had lower lows and lower highs, lower lows, and so on, and there's potential down to 64.60, but it is trying to bounce back a little bit, which is not unusual. After a massive sell-off, we will have a little bit of a bounce back, but we are in a downtrend and medium term. Finally, let's have a look at the US Treasury yields, US 10-year Treasury yields. We can see that it is bouncing a little bit after spiking lower below 363, but we can also see here what's going on the weekly chart. It is testing some support here, and we are in a bearish trend, and there is potential down to around 330, 335 in this region here. Whether we'll get there is debatable, I would say, but we are in a downtrend. We really need to get back above 392, 393 to reverse that view. So that's will be a little bit of a struggle for that. So currently lower yield. And since it is ECB meeting today and rate decisions where it is expected to cut by 25 basis points, let's have a look at Bund. Here's the Euro Bund future, and what is key to watch is that, or keep an eye on, first of all, it did close above resistance here at 135.08, and it did close above the 61.8 retracement at more or less same level, spiked all the way up to almost the 786 retracement of this correction here. However, we are in a positive sentiment on the daily RSI. There is higher potential for Bund, but we can see here on the weekly that 136.29 around there we have some strong resistance, but we can also see that the moving average they're turning around, so we could see push higher here in going into the rest of the year. All right, that's a long one for today. Have a nice day, and talk to you again tomorrow.